Welcome back to the Literary Apothecary. My name is Kate, and I'm here today to talk to you all about A Memory Called Empire. This is by Arkady Martine, and it is book 1 in the Texacalan series. It's a science fiction, fantasy, space opera. It was so much fun. I did an immersion read of this, mostly listening to the audiobook actually, because it was not bad. I felt like there were some times where I needed the physical text in front of me, but there were some times where I actually enjoyed the audiobook more. So my general thoughts about this book is that this was one of the most unique books I've ever read. And that's all I'm going to say about that until we go into my other categories. But that kind of just sums up everything right there. Let me give you a spoiler-free description of what this book is all about so you can see if you want to read this or not. Ambassador Mahit Desmar arrives in the center of the multi-system Texacalani Empire only to discover that her predecessor, the previous ambassador from their small but fiercely independent mining station, has died. But no one will admit that his death wasn't an accident, or that Mahit might be next to die. During a time of political instability in the highest echelons of the imperial court. Now, Mahit must discover who is behind the murder, rescue herself, and save her station from Texacalan's unceasing expansion, all while navigating an alien culture that is all too seductive, engaging in intrigues of her own, and hiding a deadly technological secret, one that might spell the end of her station and her way of life, or rescue it from annihilation. Now let's get into my call piles about this. Our characters are very unique and complex, and I loved reading about them through their points of views. I loved everything about our characters here. Our atmosphere and setting, I loved this so much. It felt like space, even though I wasn't quite sure where the, quote, home planet was supposed to be or what it was supposed to be, it still felt like space, and yeah, a space opera is supposed to feel like space. And that might seem like it's obvious to you, but I've read some space operas that don't feel like space. They feel too much centered on Earth instead of in space. This one felt like it was in space on an alien planet. Our writing style, now this is where it gets, for me personally, a little bit too science fiction-y. It felt very methodical and a bit cold, at least at the start, and I'm not quite sure the exact word that I'm looking for here, but it felt kind of robotic, science fiction-y. It didn't feel as space opera-ish to me, if that makes sense. And maybe it's just my experience of reading other space operas that felt a little bit more fantastical and exciting. But I don't know, maybe I don't understand space operas like I thought I did, and maybe it was just my specific experiences were very different than what the normal space operas are like. It also felt like at times there were some mix-up of pronouns, and maybe that's me not understanding the way that their pronoun system works in this world, but I really thought a certain character was one gender, and then later in the book that gender seemed to switch, and maybe it's just a character and that's how it works, but I was a little bit confused when that happened. So I was confused, and I had to read those parts again to make sure that it was the right character I was reading. But that could also be a me thing. All of this could just be me things. Our plot, I loved following this story, and I was so shocked at where it went. I can't wait to see where they take this book into book 2. I think this is a duology, if I remember right, which I'm beginning to really love. I need more duologies in my life because I love just that 1-2 bang right there, get it done and over with. I used to love trilogies, now I'm a sucker for duologies. Intrigue, I was interested on every page. Even if I didn't quite know what was happening to who or where, I was still very, very much interested. Logic, similar to what I said under the writing style, there was a lot of science fiction here for me, and it was what felt like hard science fiction. There were some things that didn't make sense to me, and I don't know if that's because of the writing or because of the science fiction part of it, and I was just not understanding the science of it. But I just went with it because I was enjoying it so much, and it didn't feel like I needed to understand it or everything in it to understand the story as a whole. And enjoyment, for the most part, I enjoyed this book a lot, and I look forward to reading the next one. Our audiobook, because I did do this as an immersion read / audio read, Amy Landon was our narrator, and I thought she did a good job for the most part. There were a few times when her voice didn't really change, even though the speaker changed, and that was a little bit confusing, especially if it was a moment where I wasn't following along on the page. But for the most part, I thought she did a really great job doing this, and I hope she does book 2 also. So that is my quick spoiler-free summary for A Memory Called Empire. If you have read this book before, let me know in the comments below. What did you think of it? If you've read book 2, let me know what I can, in spoiler-free terms, what I can look forward to in reading book 2 once I can get to that. As always, keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.